everybody, how are you doing? So it is day 6, oh my gosh, of NaNoWriMo, and it is now 20:47 according to my laptop. So I have worked my full shift. I have eaten dinner, another lasagna. Well, no, the same lasagna, just a different piece. Yeah, because I could totally have eaten the same piece again. Weird. I said hello to my dog. I spoke to the family. I dropped my parents because they were going out and doing fancy things. And then I had a shower, and I now have my massive cup of tea and all that good stuff. So I've sat down to write. Hopefully, I feel like I'm more in the zone today than I was last night, which is nice, even though I'm running on actually less sleep, which is bad, but at least I'm not in work until 12 o'clock tomorrow, which kind of frees me up a little bit tonight, so I'll be able to get a bit of sleep anyway. Yeah, so today I'm hoping to get into the meat of chapter 2 and kind of develop up these bandit characters. I have gotten so many good names out of the previous video for this bandit chieftain that I'm just like, I'm gonna put off naming him for a little bit just to see if there's any last minute kind of forces running into the race before I announce a winner. I do have a favourite. I won't tell you what it is, but I do have a favourite, and it's going to be tough to beat. So the other names, however, I may recycle into like kind of NPC kind of sideline characters, so each name will be used at least in passing. So one person in particular has come up with an interesting theory about what I read out the last day, and this person was Advocatus, or I don't know how to pronounce that. I'm really sorry. Diaboli or Diaboli. Again, I'm sorry. I can't pronounce these things. Came up with the idea that perhaps the wheel, the water wheel from the mill, is sentient because of the way my characters are talking about it, and that struck me as quite interesting because it's sort of along the same vein as what I'm going for, but not quite there. You see, I have obviously my degree in theology, so I've done a lot of kind of side reading on stuff and kind of explored faith and whatever. And there's a particular strain of paganism called animism, and that one quite resonated with me because it's more about kind of natural occurrences, it's more about the elements, it's more about that kind of thing. Which, if the magic in my world is elemental, actually kind of makes sense to be along what people think like, even if the magic itself is outlawed. It's a basic reality that the elements can respond to humans rather than just be basic stimulus, which I think is kind of an interesting one. And yeah, well, the wheel itself cannot think. It cannot think for itself in the way that a human being would think. It doesn't have an identity. It doesn't call itself by a name, or she, because they refer to it as she, but I was more taking that as, you know, the way people call boats she and motorcycles she and kind of all that stuff. I decided to gender her, more because of it seemed to suit Aura's father more than anything, or his way of speaking, because I kind of wanted him to be a gruff kind of countryman, the way I would know a gruff countryman. So his rhythm of speech and everything else is kind of based off that. But yeah, the idea of naming it might be more of a human thing than what I was going for, is that everything is kind of imbued. I think Pocahontas, I know every rock and tree and creature has a life, has a spirit, not necessarily has a name. So this thing is made of wood, and wood is alive. You know, like, anyone who tells you that once it's chopped down the wood is dead is really wrong, because it breathes, it warps, it still does things. It's not alive in the biological sense, but it's still it's not like a stone. It's movable, it's malleable, it's very much a reactive substance. So I wanted to bring in, because wood is that reactive and because it is laced or rooted, in the earth, I wanted to kind of bring that animism kind of mentality. I'm not saying that all animists think like this or even that this is entirely correct, but I wanted to take that idea that things have a spirit or a life force to it, and I wanted to put that as part of a superstition into that world. So if your water wheel or something that you require in order to survive suddenly breaks for no reason, or suddenly, like, unexpectedly breaks or stops working or whatever, there's that superstition that somehow you have displeased it or done wrong, or you don't deserve its services any longer. And so it has, in essence, rejected you as its master. So that, again, it's slightly taken from the idea of the animism. Is kind of taken from kind of, so we're sentient weaponry in Dungeons and Dragons. Just the fact that wood warps around the place and everything else. It's kind of a mishmash of all kinds of stuff, and also from the ancient Roman belief in things like the god that lives in the fireplace, the hearth gods, and everything else. So I kind of took that and put it in to mean not just hearths, but also ovens and bakers, ovens for bakers, or forges for blacksmiths, or water wheels for lumber mill owners, or you name it, someone will probably have an item that would have some kind of spirit imbued in it. And also, it just kind of reminded me that Terry Pratchett, in one of his books, I think it might have been Monstrous Regiment, it might have been something else, I'm not sure. It's been a while since I've read them, and I've read so many of them they kind of blended into one thing. There was this place that was full of bards, and the bards, they would talk about how old the harp was, and new harps weren't as good as the old harps because the old harps had developed souls and spirits, but the strings have been replaced and the bodies have been replaced over and over again, but it was still the same harp. So there was that spirit carrying it through, even though it was made up of completely different parts of when it started out. So I guess that kind of might have influenced me somehow. You see, this is how I work for D&D and for writing and everything. It's just I pick up little bits and pieces and they just percolate in the back of my mind without me really realizing it. I don't know, it's interesting me because I've not bothered to pick apart why I've written something or why something happens in Dungeons and Dragons. It just happens because I said so. And I've never thought about it. Not properly anyway. So that's a thing. So thank you for opening up that line of questioning, and also for offering wonderful names for the mill wheel. I might take you up on the idea of calling her Cordelia, or at least have Aura's father refer to her as Cordelia at some point, if he ever does return. I don't actually know if I'm ever going to write about him again, but maybe Aura will remember him saying it or something. I'm not really sure. Anyway, only one way to find out, and that is to start writing, which is what I'm going to do now. So, see you in a bit. Okay, hi guys. So I'm currently sitting on the floor in the hallway because it's really loud in the kitchen because the kettle is not one of the noise reduction kettles, it's just one of the really loud ones. So I decided to come out here so it'd be less of a big deal. Sorry, Reggie's sitting next to me, so he's currently loving life and getting pets and, being a dog. So I seem to be the taxi of the household at the moment because I'm after giving my little brother a lift down to the pub to meet his mates and whatever. And on the way, he was asking me about how the novel was going, and I was like, okay. So I gave him a basic rundown of the plot as I know it, along with the end part that sort of just happened and I didn't expect it, and I was like, okay. And then he was like, ooh, because my whole family, by which I mean myself and my 3 siblings, read a lot of fantasy. We're all fantasy heads. So he was like, ooh, you could do this, and you could do this, and you could do this. So yeah, he's now completely developed the latter half of my novel for me. So we now have another couple of characters. We now have a villain. We now have somewhere for this place to for this whole thing to go. It's making the bandits slightly less important, for which I'm sorry, but it is, oh my god, I'm so excited. I'm kind of like, I'm half debating whether or not I'm going to stick this into the video, but I figure I might as well say it so that the bandits are going to get picked up by the Royal Guard. The magical 2 are going to be separated from the ordinary people, and I was going to assume they're going to be executed. They're not. They're brought to a sort of an underground, not literally underground, just an underground military training operation, because the king has decided he doesn't want to just be a king, he wants to be an emperor, and in order to build an empire you must take down a lot of people. So he's decided that he's going to treat the magical people as basically like a resource, train them up, use them as weapons against his enemies. And basically his enemies is anyone who has any land whatsoever. So yeah, so he's going to be pretty much manipulated by the chief physician, who's going to have like massive Nazi overtones, and in order to be brought in they have to pass a physical examination, and that involves either drinking something or being injected with something which is imbued with magic, though I'm debating whether or not the magical people will know this, but it's imbued with magic so that they can be traced. And that's something that's definitely not going to be told to them. So that basically they'll be like the Judas goats, where basically just stick GPS trackers onto goats, set them loose, and the goats wander and find their way to other goats, and then they swoop in and kill all the goats. Which is sad, because goats are my favourite animal. But anyway, yeah, so they're going to take their way through a couple of countries, a couple of lands, sorry, that was my phone, a couple of countries, rape, pillage, take over, la 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 la, it's going to be fine. Then they're going to come into a country that they have very little idea of what's going on, they weren't really sure there was land here at all. And that's going to be the land that is, in and of itself, inherently magical. People like magic there, they think it's a blessing from the gods rather than a curse or a taint. So that's going to make it, hello again. So that's going to make it a little bit interesting. That's probably where the majority of the magical soldiers are going to try and make good their escape. However, they're all being traced. And then basically the tracers were put in so that if they were to, oh I know, oh you like scratches there, huh? So basically, yeah, so that if they were to defect, desert, oh I know, Reggie's having a good day. So if they do any of that kind of stuff, or if they wander off, they could be tracked down, and basically the king's going to go completely freaked mental, charge in with all of his normal people, and try to slaughter as many magical people as humanly possible, which is what the the physician is going to have suggested, because he's all about blood purity and Nazism, basically, and he sees magic as a taint and a curse, and it's gross, and he wants to get rid of it. So yeah, that's kind of the idea there, and it's like, holy shit, this sounds like an actual book now all of a sudden, instead of just like a short story or fan fiction. It sounds like a book that I would actually read, and that's more than a little surprising to me. Well, you guys seem to think that what I've written is pretty good, but I compare myself against the people who've made like the hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions on their books and stuff. I hold myself to their standard, not to the standard of normal, unpublished 23-year-old people. So maybe I need to look at that. I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to sign off, finish making my cup of tea, and petting my dog, and I'm going to get back to writing. Hey guys, so it's just gone 11 o'clock, so I figured I should probably wrap the video to kind of have it up around the same time again. I'm probably going to stay up and do, sorry about my phone again, I'm probably going to stay up and do a little bit more writing and everything, but I figured I better get the video up at any rate. So once the video's up, I'll probably kind of do a couple of updates over Twitter. So at Acrolade. So if you want to kind of follow along, then that's where I'll be. And everything else. So yeah, thus endeth the 6th day. I've so far only written about 500 words as well, which is bad. I've just cracked 8,000 words. Today's target is something like 10,000 words. So I'm fairly behind. Not enjoying that. But my day off is Sunday. And I'm just like, I just need to get a good run at it on Sunday. I will probably be using the Pomodoro Technique, which is something that I found very helpful for writing my research paper, which is basically you work for 25 minutes, then you take a 5-minute break, then you work for 25 minutes, then you take a 5-minute break, you work for 25 minutes, you take a 15-minute break, and then you just kind of stick to it. And it stops your brain from completely seizing up, but it keeps you working all the same. And you know, for 5 minutes, you know, what I'd do is I'd watch 5 minutes of a TV show on my laptop, or I'd read a book for 5 minutes, or I'd listen to some music, or I'd go and get myself a cup of tea or whatever. And then for the 15 minutes, after 2 5-minute breaks, a 15-minute break suddenly seems like a lot of time, and you're like, ooh, I could do a whole thing. And it's a very weird mindset, because you're like, 15 minutes is a long time, but when you have so much work to do, it's actually really valuable that you can say, oh, 15 minutes is a lot of time. Because most of the time you're like, oh, it'll just take me 15 minutes. As if 15 minutes is a very negligible amount of time, but it's a quarter of an hour. And, you know, if you said a quarter of anything else, that's a fairly big portion. It's a pretty big percentage. So I think it's quite good that it makes you think like that, or it made me think like that anyway. And I will likely also be using writtenkitten.com, where basically you write 100 words and it gives you a fresh picture of a fuzzy animal to look at. I quite like it. I think there's a puppy setting on it. I like the puppy setting best. Because they don't have it like a baby goat setting yet. I'm hoping they will sometime, because a goat's my favourite. Yeah, so that's probably how I'm gonna crack through that. But I found a quote that I quite like, and I think it quite sums up what I'm trying to achieve here. And it is by Theodore Roosevelt, who I frankly know very little about, and I just kind of came across a lot of quotes by him. He seems to be a highly quoted man, which is always a good sign, really. Because I know Oscar Wilde is a highly quoted man, and I quite admire him. So the quote, I've actually written it on my wall, is, "Nothing in the world is worth having or worth doing unless it means effort, pain, difficulty. I have never in my life envied a human being who led an easy life." I like that. I like that a lot. I like that it places value on effort, because a lot of the time people claim luck, or, you know, students and children will be rewarded for, you're so intelligent, when actually you can be extremely intelligent and still get nothing done. You can be extremely lucky, but that's not something to be applauded. That's just something for everyone to go, oh, I'm jealous, you're so lucky. That's not the same thing. I mean, like, I've known a lot of intelligent people, and you know, some of them applied themselves really heavily and achieved really great results. Some of them didn't. So obviously the outstanding condition there is the effort. And I think in the case of NaNoWriMo, effort is the main thing. You have to work at it. Like a lot of things in life need you to work at it, but NaNoWriMo, writing this novel, chasing this dream, it's a lot of effort. And I know that one of the grades that I am most proud of is actually my junior cert, which is a state examination that we take at the age of 15. 15, 16 thereabouts. And my junior cert, art, I got an A. And everyone always told me that it was impossible to get an A in art, and always so you had to be so talented and you have to have all of this talent. When I'm a fairly meager artist, like I'm okay. I'm a creative type, generally speaking, but I'm not by any means a great artist. I wasn't naturally talented, you know, I have a decent spatial awareness, that kind of thing, but I'm not a very good artist. But I spent every lunchtime in the art room working on my projects. I stayed behind after school to work on my projects. I poured myself for the whole year into these projects. And that's why I got my A, was because I spent hours and hours painstakingly sculpting clay, drawing and colouring my poster, doing all of my design sketches, finding all of my reference pictures, everything. I spent hours. And of course I'm proud that it was an A that I got, but I'm more proud that I achieved that through that much labour. You know, because there's girls that went to my school that got A's and, you know, it looked easy from the outside. I'm sure it wasn't easy on the inside, but from the outside it looked easy because everything they did was always so lovely and interesting and creative, and they were the talented people that everyone told me were the ones that would get the A, and I would have to settle for a C or a B. And yet I managed to get an A, even though I wasn't one of those girls. And for that, I was always immensely proud. And I think that's something I need to strive for here. So I'm doing my best not to lose heart. Anyway, I'm going to get back to writing. See you all tomorrow. I almost forgot to announce the winner. My gosh, I'm such an idiot. Okay, so the winner for the Bandit Chieftain's name comes from Brian Merriman, or Merriman. I don't know how you pronounce that either. I'm terrible at pronunciation. But Brian suggested Cyrus as his name, and I love it. I really love it. Now, the other names were fantastic, guys. They were really, really good names, but Cyrus to me just, it has that oomph to it. I really like it. So thank you, Brian. That's gone in the book.